Did you know that many of the statues that are in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania are more than just memorials? That they actually depict faces of soldiers that fought there at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Well, today we're headed out the door to Gettysburg, and we're going there for the Gettysburg Film Festival, and we're going to take a tour of the field and of some of those very statues. So join us as we go on this journey to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. So we made it out here to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and I'm currently at the Adams County Historical Society. The Beyond the Battlefield or Beyond Gettysburg Museum is right behind me here. And this is one of those locations where you can come in and get a real good experience, not only seeing artifacts, but kind of a hands-on deal, really. Historians are constantly in here, along with authors and other significant figures within the Gettysburg area. And it's just a stone's throw away from the actual battlefield itself. Matter of fact, it's in the middle of the battlefield. You can walk from here right over there and go down the road and just check out history as you go along. I highly suggest stopping by here to this museum and checking it out, and kind of making this almost like a visitor center before you go to the actual National Park Visitor Center. It's a great place to be. We're going to check out all the stuff we got going on today, and I'm going to bring it to you live here from Gettysburg. For a long time, I've had folks on my channel asking me why don't I just kind of make a random video and show some of the unique monuments in some of the places that I go, like Gettysburg, for example. So this is exactly what I decided to do when I came back up here, because I've told a lot of stories here about the soldiers that fought and some of the regiments and different divisions and the leaders of those divisions. But this battlefield is littered with monuments that many of those soldiers that fought here actually came back to dedicate on this field. I am at Little Round Top, and I am looking at one of those monuments right now. And if you look right over here, there it is. 147th Regiment Infantry, Pennsylvania Veterans Volunteer. And it says that they were posted here the night of July 1st, 1863. So that is a pretty cool monument. Just one of the many monuments that we're going to make our way around to throughout the time here at Gettysburg, and sort of compile a video, if you will, of the smaller monuments off the beaten path that a lot of people just maybe drive by, or they don't really check out up close and in person. So that way you get a good sense of some of the things that are out here that if you go to explore in these fields, you can see it for yourself. We'll let the video speak for itself. Well, the ticks are out and they are crawling. It took me no more than a couple of minutes out here in the tall grass and one of these monuments to have a tick crawl all over me, and You gotta be careful. Gotta watch out for that stuff. Now, I like walking up from the base of Little Round Top, even up the driveway, especially early in the morning when there's no traffic out here, to see this stuff for myself, but also to kind of gain a little perspective of the amount of energy that's expended coming up and down this hill when I'm at Little Round Top. I'm out here for leisure. I'm not a combat soldier out here fighting. Those soldiers going up and down these hills in July, we're about as tired as it gets. It's a lot of energy that it takes to fight here at Little Round Top. It's an amazing place. It's beautiful too. The views from Little Round Top, they're just fantastic. So I'm coming down here on the front-facing side of Little Round Top. As you go up Little Round Top and then back down the hill just before the parking, there's a beautiful green area, and this 98th Regiment Pennsylvania Volunteers Monument is here. Just behind that, you can see the 121st New York Infantry right up on the hill here. This is another amazing monument that we'll take a closer look at in this video so that you can see it for yourself without having to get out here on the path and walk the trails like I am. So here we go. Another wonderful feature about some of these monuments are the stones that are embedded into the monuments, the different colors for the different units that were out here. It's amazing how that color will pop across the field. You'll be off in the distance. For example, I'm looking at what I can describe as Lake Little Round Top, and you can stand all the way down there, and on a hot summer's day, that bright blue will just hit you, and immediately your eyes are attracted to that monument, and you come up this hill and try to take a look at it for yourself. That's how I noticed some of these from off in the distance myself. It's just it's an amazing thing to see in a sea full of green out here, this bright blue on this monument. I'm in a pretty significant place here at Little Round Top with the 121st New York Infantry Monument. And you'll notice that on this monument, they have the name Colonel Emory Upton. It's just right up top there. You can see it. A lot of the monuments that these men put up, they would remember leaders from their organizations, specifically ones that were killed in combat, and sometimes ones that were just very inspirational during the battle itself, and maybe subsequently killed later on. This is a beautiful tribute to a person whom they saw, I'm sure, as an inspiration to them all, Emory Upton. But the monument at the top has a common Union soldier standing guard over the field. And he has his musket in his hand. You can see his bayonet sticking out from the side there. And the typical kepi. It's just an amazing monument. It's something really to behold. We're going to move on up here, on up a little round top a little ways, and see if we can find some more monuments to kind of highlight here, and then move on to another portion of the field. It's a beautiful day out. I do have some events to go to and cover for the Gettysburg Film Festival, but it's certainly a great time to be in Gettysburg. Well, I'm about as deep into Little Round Top as it gets, really. I can see the position that Sickles should have been holding from here, just right over the hill. I can see the positions that the Union Army had to try to hold at Devil's Den just down there. I can see the peach orchard way off in the distance, barely. I can see the Red Barn, another landmark out there in the field, just way off in the distance. And I can see all of Little Round Top from here. I can even see one of the large monuments that's sitting up on top in Gouverneur K. Warren. Down here, on these big boulders, there's another monument that comes to mind that I love to come visit while I'm out here at Little Round Top. And it's this monument right here that we're about to walk up on now. Hopefully I didn't spoil it when I was spinning around there. Erected by the survivors, 1886. That's real neat. 2nd Division. And you can see our nice little zouave there right on top. And I'll do a closer shot of the monument itself. But we just recently did a video about the zouaves at the Battle of the Wilderness, which takes place after the Battle of Gettysburg. And this is one of the monuments dedicated to the zouaves that were up here at this place. It's amazing to come out to this place because when you get to Gettysburg, you visit the field, the grass and the trees and all that stuff, and you know that the soldiers fought out here and they walked on these fields. But to come back and go to a direct thing like a stone, or for For example, that base right there, which the pedestal, it says pedestal erected by survivors. Be able to touch that. That is that tactile link to history. Just like a bullet hole in the wall, this is the same thing. Those soldiers came back out here as elderly men to see that thing put up for them in the honor of the men that they fought with, that died for them, and then also they survived to tell their story. It's a beautiful thing to see. But I'll get some closer shots so you can see what that monument looks like, and maybe you'll understand why. I love this monument. It's a very bold monument. The man standing on top there, it's just amazing. Of course, not to be done in by anybody else. The home team is going to have many, many, many monuments out here at Gettysburg. 91st Pennsylvania right here behind me. This is one heck of a monument. It kind of looks like almost like a castle down at the bottom of the hill there. But it's one of those monuments that gets a lot of attention in photographs too, because it's very picturesque and you can see it from Devil's Den clearly. Just like you can see the monument just to my front over there. Flip around so you can see that. That one right there. That one you can climb up inside and go out on the top and get an even better view of this whole area, which is what I did in one of my videos here at Little Round Top. And I'll put a link to that in the description of this video so you can see me describing the battle and things that happened here. But this monument was stabilized during the renovation out here and the preservation. The ground around it was actually treated, dug up, and stabilized so that this monument wouldn't end up tipping over and falling down. It's one of the many things that the millions of dollars that they spent here during the preservation of this hill and the restoration of this location so that people could come out here and see this. That's one of the many things that was done. Also, if you look at the stone wall, they reconstructed all of that. That's not original by the hands of the soldiers stone wall down there. That is reconstructed by many, many people working tirelessly up here on the behest of the government to preserve Little Round Top. So, but that is another beautiful monument there, that 91st Pennsylvania that sits at the top of this hill, and is another monument that I come to and check out while I'm out here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. We're going to move on from here, and we're going to try to go to another location, probably down there near Devil's Den, and then maybe over to the wheat field. We're trying to hit as much as we can this morning because we have an event to be at 10 o'clock. And then, if I can, get over to Culp's Hill, because there's a very special location over there that I'd like to talk about, and eventually I'm going to put a video together for that location. It's a place where some soldiers were buried on this field, and you can still see the divot in the ground for yourself. Another location out here in Gettysburg that I used to visit all the time, and I'm now finding extremely difficult to visit, is this monument out here that's pretty much in the swamp. Earlier I talked about Lake Little Round Top. It's kind of a running joke because some nasty little beavers got out here and they built themselves a nice little dam, and the next thing you know, we have a huge buildup of water down here at the base of Round Top. You can hear the water probably behind me, and I will pan back this way so you can see that nice little lake that they've created here at the base of Little Round Top. As a result of this lake, it almost makes it impossible, unless you have boots on, to get out here and see this monument right here. And quite frankly, how marshy this dirt is here, it's kind of concerning. This monument's pretty heavy. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to tilt over on its side or anything, but eventually erosion's going to take over, and they're going to have to spend another $500,000 or more trying to preserve this monument in its current position. If that beaver dam ever gives way and that water ever blows its way out through here, it's also going to cause more damage. Not to mention, who knows what kind of artifacts or things are in that water underneath there. Now, the monument I'm at right now is the 40th New York Infantry, and they call it the Mozart Regiment. On this monument, it depicts 3rd Brigade, 1st Division, 3rd Corps, July 2nd, 1863, 4:30 p.m. The soldier, as you can see, is clean shaven. He's positioned himself behind a boulder here, and he's staring towards the top of where Devil's Den meets the hill there. It is, from this angle, a drastic viewpoint. If you're a soldier down here hiding behind some rocks, trying to protect yourself for the oncoming onslaught, which did happen. Confederates came from over that way, and they pushed their way up and over those hills down here towards this location where geese are now staring at me, probably wondering why I'm in their little pond. But those soldiers came down through here, and the Union soldiers at the base of this hill were no doubt hiding behind rocks just like this, and they were protecting themselves, and then eventually getting driven right back up to the top of Little Round Top, the fallback point, thanks to a leader that we just talked about in a video not too long ago that was here at Little Round Top. They ended up dying here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, as a result of his wounds. I'll put a link in the description to that video as well. But this is a beautiful monument. It's a shame that all this water's around and it's marshy like it is. But if you get yourself some good shoes on and come out here and maybe some waterproof boots or something. Right now I'm trekking around in some good old Texas boots, and that's not good enough for water, but it'll keep my feet dry. But you'll see an amazing piece of work. This is a beautiful monument, something to behold for sure. A monument out here that many people pass by and don't even give a second thought when they come out here because they're so excited about what's in front of me is this 4th Maine Infantry Monument. The 4th Maine fought like dogs out here. They were a tough bunch of guys. And this monument is kind of small compared to all the other ones that are out here, and it's not as extravagant or as an attractive monument in my assessment. So that's probably why a lot of people pass it by. You can see they did some restoration underneath there to keep it nice and level and to really keep it attached to the top of that rock. It's a beautiful monument too, and it points off in the direction from Little Round Top towards Devil's Den. And I'll pan around here and you can see directly behind me, Devil's Den. This points right at Devil's Den when the sun hits it. Just one of those keen observations that you make when you're out on these fields early in the morning and you can see the sun coming up and you can see these monuments for yourself. It's a fitting tribute to the 4th Maine who fought out here. And if you're out at Devil's Den, take a look around, you know, just kind of calmly assess the situation and see some of the things that are out here. There's walking paths just on the other side here that you can actually get down to that a lot of people don't go to, and you go right down in between some boulders and there's monuments over there as well. It's a beautiful place, and that's why I like it. So. I've been so busy out here with the media pass in Gettysburg that I forgot to slow down and smell the bacon, if you will, or the coffee, whatever you like. Devil's Den, right behind me there. This is the reason why a lot of us come out here. I mean, Jeff Shara said it, Ken Burns said it, you know, Martin Sheen even said it. Many people come out here, and if you see a license plate that is not from the area, and you ask them, why are you in Gettysburg? The first thing that they say is, I'm here to see the battlefield. And that's true. A lot of people come out here to see this battlefield. And Devil's Den is just one of the many places that people like to go to because they can take photographs here. They can compare it to historical photos. They can talk about the soldiers that fought here and died here. And there's even a place where they can stand in the footprints of where a soldier was photographed in death. It's a stark reminder to the cost that soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen pay every single year in the existence of this country in order to defend it and its Constitution. These places bring you back many years. And a lot of people have memories out here, but these places keep me humble every time I go. About a year or so ago, we came out to this location right behind me, the Peach Orchard, here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, to tell the story of some soldiers that fought out here, but mostly to tell the story of the Wentz family, Henry Wentz in particular, and his father's home was right there across the street. You can see the foundation of it over there. And you can tell the story in totality of a family struggle all in one place, where the man who lives in that house, who gave a couple of acres of property across the street to his son, hoping to keep him here, would then face his son because his son is in a Confederate artillery unit just across the street from his home, and is firing cannonballs in this direction, firing ordnance over here that could potentially blow up his own family's house, possibly kill his father, possibly kill his sibling. It's an astounding story. And Tom McMillan wrote a book about it, and he actually joined us on the video. I'm going to post a link to that in the description of this video, but this video isn't about telling stories about soldiers. This video is about taking you out to some monuments. So we're going to go out here to the Peach Orchard, and there is a monument that's on Burney Avenue that's facing the road where the Confederates would have brought their artillery units up. They actually are right there on that street corner by the time Pickett's charge is taking place, and they are securing this area and firing in that direction. But there's a beautiful white monument out there that I visit every now and again, but it's kind of hard to get to because there's no parking really, and a lot of people don't visit it. You have to walk to get there. So we're going to take our way out there, and I'll show you that monument. So as you can tell, it's not exactly the safest location. Whew, that bird got me. It's not exactly the safest location to be walking to get to a monument. It's right here on the street corner itself. I mean, look at the street. And even though the speed limit signs are posted and people are supposed to be driving by here at a relatively slow rate of speed, I see people flying by here at 60 miles an hour all the time because it's wide open, and why not, I guess. But be safe when you're coming out here to try to check this monument out, and stay as far off the road as you can because people are not paying attention these days, especially when they're texting and driving. So on this monument that I'm about to show you, it's just a beautiful white monument that stands on the corner here at Burney Avenue. And it reads, erected by the survivors of the 68th Regiment PV, Scots Legion, Colonel A.H. Tippin, commanding, 1st Brigade, 1st Division, 3rd Army Corps, in memory of 183 of our comrades who fell on this field July 2nd and July 3rd. Erected by the survivors is what it says. Survivors of that unit were here in Gettysburg to bring this monument to the field to ensure that it was here and that people for all time would know about their comrades that fell on this field. and that they cared for them. That's a pretty powerful thing. Most of these monuments that are out here that the survivors were here to see erected, it's really for that reason. It's healing, it's remembering, it's coming back to a place of significance and telling the American Civil War story, not just the story of a few people that died in one location. You must remember that when these men came back to this field particularly, the reunions were not just Gettysburg veterans. The reunion was Civil War veterans, meaning if you fought in any battle in the Civil War, and even if you were not here in Gettysburg, you could come to Gettysburg and be a part of this reunion so that people could meet and honor veterans of the American Civil War. And that is what this monument right here represents. It represents those soldiers that fought here and died here on this field. And some of their survivors came back to this field along with other members who survived the American Civil War. This is a place of power. This is a place of beauty. Right here at the corner of the peach orchard on Burney Avenue. Now, many of us, when we go out to these fields and study the battles, the older we get, we start thinking more and more about the frailty of life, the significance of our own life, and what this all means, and our own struggles with life. The men that were out here, a lot of them were young men, as young as teenagers, really, fighting out here for what they believed in. A lot of them died in hospitals around the area. And as part of this little video that we're doing about monuments that are out here, I am going to take you to a field hospital that's out here in Gettysburg on the way to the Gettysburg High School. The Gettysburg High School sits on a part of the battlefield, a big part of the battlefield. Right down the street from there is a field hospital, a location where men that were wounded in and around the area would have been brought to and worked on. It's also a location that Ewell and his men would have passed by. It is a pretty amazing thing to be saved here in Gettysburg, and I'm going to bring you out there and show you that place. To me, some of the houses around here, the field hospitals, those too are monuments. They stand the test of time because we preserve them. And because we preserve them, we tell the story of the citizens here in Adams County, in Gettysburg. Their story too is just as important as the soldiers that fought here. Their struggles are pretty real. They even had one of their own die as a result of this battle. Adams County is a beautiful place. But when war comes to your county and town, it is not a beautiful thing to behold. And they got to see it firsthand. Undoubtedly, they did not want to see that. And they did not think it was going to ever happen because the war was in the South. The destruction was in the South. We're going to head over there now. So as promised, we decided to go over to the Benner farm, and the building that's out here that used to be a field hospital during the American Civil War, during the Battle of Gettysburg. And this particular location here was, at one point in time, just a regular plain old farm. Family lived here, had about 120 acres or so that they were farming out here in Gettysburg. And all of a sudden, July 1st, the Federal Army was occupying this location right here. The next thing you know, Jubal Early's men come pouring across these fields and in and around this area. This sturdy old home becomes a safe haven for people. It becomes a place of nightmares, really. It is a hospital to deal with all these soldiers that are pouring across these fields with wounds of all types. And men died inside this house and on these grounds. This is, to me, a monument to itself. Today there's a parking lot behind it. You know, a place you can go to and check out, and I don't know if it's open to the public or anything, but I think every now and again they do tours. But it's a magnificent old home, and the sign is up on the hill, and you can look down over it and contemplate the activity that took place here in 1863 during and after the Battle of Gettysburg. Now in the shadows of literal giants out here is another 4th Maine monument. That monument is this little guy right here. It is directly behind the copse of trees. And when you come out to Gettysburg and you're looking at the most dramatic point of Gettysburg, it is the copse of trees. This is the focal point of the attack on July 3rd for Pickett's charge. This is the place that's so dramatic in the movie that all of the cannons are supposed to be aimed here, and the 15,000 Confederate soldiers are coming across the field and all this other stuff. It was a very dramatic scene out here, very, very deadly scene, that way, where the cannonballs are landing. The artillery was blasting people left and right over here. There were soldiers in field hospitals out there that were wounded and dying, and they had nowhere to go. the staff that was out there taking care of them had nowhere to go either. And cannonballs would fly and burst overhead, artillery shells would fly and land in the area over there, and they could not help themselves. Well, the 4th Maine was up here eventually on this line. And this monument here talks about July 2nd being engaged at Devil's Den and Colonel Elijah Walker being wounded over there. But it's kind of tucked away. It's a very small, little unique monument. It's a beautiful place to be. And if you get out here to the center of the line where the copse of trees are, turn around away from the trees and walk towards that monument. Out here in the woods in Gettysburg, there's a place that Peter Carmichael used to take his students to, just behind the Maryland Monument. It was a place he was introduced to at some point in time during his career before he passed away. And he actually wrote about the place in one of his books, one of the many books that he was a part of. And it's just a small divot in the ground. You'd pass right over it if you didn't know what you were looking at. A longtime park ranger and historian brought him to that location, and he told him about the story of the bodies being removed from the field after the Battle of Gettysburg. And out here in this field, where these rocks and boulders are, there is a small divot in the ground over there. And that is a former burial pit. This is where soldiers would have been buried, and probably no more than 3 or 4 were recovered from that grave over there. But it's about as close to being here at the place and time of the battle as you can get, because that is a battle scar on this ground. The men that were paid to come out here and dig those bodies up pulled out about 3 or 4 bodies, and it is documented that there were soldiers pulled from this area here. There's no telling who they fought for, because by the time they were pulled out of the ground, they were probably unrecognizable, completely unrecognizable, and there wasn't much left to pull out of the ground. Unfortunately for those men that were left behind to decompose like that, there was no real way to document who they were. There were no headboards or anything with names and ranks and units. But Peter Carmichael would tell the story about a couple of North Carolinians who fought up here by the last name of Futch. One would die out here because of being shot in the cap, and the other one would go on to become a deserter and would be executed for his desertion by the Confederate Army. We're going to cover that story, and this is the starting point right here. The starting point of John Futch and his brother and the tragedy of that family. But for the purposes of this video, I'm taking you to this serene, beautiful place here in Gettysburg so you can see the surrounding area and the terrain, and you can kind of understand that when you walk these fields, you don't really know what you're walking on. I've passed over that area many times, and without reading that book, without hearing Peter Carmichael talk about it, there was no way for me to know what I was walking over. It's as sacred as the cemetery down the road, just over that way. These fields probably still carry some of the secrets of the battles here. There are probably still men in the ground that are not recovered, that have been laying in these fields for years. And some see that as a sad and somber thing. But I personally see it as poetic and fitting for a warrior who died out here to remain in place on the field of battle where he perished all those years ago, where his comrades put him in the ground and they lovingly buried him here, hoping that maybe one day his family would come back and find him or visit the location where he was lost. Who knows? It could have been Confederate soldiers in that grave. Could have been Union soldiers in that grave for all we know. But the point is, you come out to these places, you need to put yourself in the shoes of the people who died out here and who sacrificed so much, and maintain that respect for the place that you're at, no matter what battlefield you're on. This is a beautiful, glorious field that one time was every man's nightmare. Now, another one of my favorite markers out here that probably plenty of people stop to see is this first shot marker here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. At 7:30 in the morning on July 1st, 1863, Lieutenant Marcellus Jones, or Captain Marcellus Jones, was out here, and there was a fence out here that belonged to the Ephraim family, and he grabs a carbine from Sergeant Schaefer's. How do we know this? Well, it's on the monument. It was such an important shot that the man who actually owned the carbine needed to have his name on the monument too. Also, a Lieutenant Riddler is on here as well. All three of these men are credited with some portion of this first shot, and they wanted to make sure that it was known, and that marker marks the location where Jones thinks he was at when he made that first shot. And the entire story is literally told right there on the marker itself, which is why I like that. It's so simple. Like, you wouldn't have any idea by standing out here in the middle of this field that anything significant happened. And if you look at that tiny little marker and read just the few words that are inscribed upon it, you'll know exactly what happened out here by reading it. Now, it doesn't give you the detail that the park sign gives you about the 7 million rounds that were spent out here, or the 51,000 casualties as a result, and the change that took place in America because of the first shot of the Battle of Gettysburg. But in 1886, the men came back out here, they marked this location, and they put up the monument so that it would be known for all time. It's a wonderful marker to see, and it really is truly an amazing place to be. So one of my favorite things on the field that's kind of like a monument, but not really, are some of the signs that are out here that tell the story. And so far I've covered a lot of Union monuments because this battlefield initially had nothing but Union monuments on it before they started allowing Confederate monuments to be built on this battlefield. But they did have signs, like the one that's over here. This marker annotates the Army of Northern Virginia, Longstreet's Corps, McLaws Division, and the location of Sims Brigade. Now, Sims Brigade was the 50th, the 51st, 53rd, and the 10th Georgia. And on this sign, it details the information about the 10th Georgia. And as you can tell with that sign, the way that it was facing was like this, so the troops are moving across in this direction here. On the sign it says, arrived on the field at 3:30 p.m., advanced about 5 o'clock in support of Kershaw's brigade and Anderson's brigade, and took an active part in the conflict on Rose Hill, and in the ravine and forest east of here, and in the vicinity of the loop, participated in the general advance late in the evening, by which Union forces were forced out of the wheat field across the Plum Run Valley. Brigadier General Paul J. Sims fell mortally wounded in the ravine near the loop. That's a lot of information for one marker. One of the most somber places on the battlefield is out here in this location. Many of the Gardner photographs that were taken out here of the dead soldiers lined up for burial were taken across this field. Frazanito has come out here and pinpointed several locations. I can see the field where these men would have died, really. And those pictures depict where they laid in their decomposition after the battle. And it wasn't too long after the battle that he was out here taking these photographs. It was a stark reminder to the public for the first time, really, what was at stake here, what the cost was, and what these guys were paying on a regular basis. They were paying with their lives across these fields. They were dying every single time that they met, many of them. And a lot of those men out here, faceless, nameless, people are not recognizing them because of their decomposition, and family members would go on to not know whether or not their family members died on these battlefields for a long time, sometimes weeks, it could be months. There was a story that was told about a soldier that fought at Sailor's Creek, and the soldier died at Sailor's Creek, and his family found out that the Army of Northern Virginia had surrendered in Appomattox, and they were overjoyed with the idea of thinking that their son was coming home. 2 weeks after the war was over, they found out that their son in fact died at Sailor's Creek. That's how fast the news traveled to them. They thought it was over. They thought their son was coming home. But he likely died on the field just like the one right behind me. So coming up here on another monument that I like out on this battlefield. This monument is dedicated to the 53rd Pennsylvania Infantry, 4th Brigade, 1st Division, 2nd Corps. And this monument also, like the sign I was telling you about earlier, this monument tells the story of the unit out here, which is really great. If you're not a historian at all and you haven't studied this battle, and all you do is walk out and see a sign like this here or a monument like this, you can simply read the information on it and get a lot of info. For example, over here, this portion of the monument tells the battles that they were in. Yorktown, Wilderness, Peach Orchard, Spotsylvania, Fair Oaks, North Anna, Gaines Mill, Totopotomoy, Savage's Station, Cold Harbor, White Oak Swamp, Petersburg, Malvern Hill, Strawberry Plains, Antietam, Deep Bottom, Fredericksburg, Reams Station, Chancellorsville, Hatcher's Run, Gettysburg, Southside Railroad, Bristow Station, Farmville, Mine Run, and Appomattox. I mean, this is really cool. And then another detail to this monument here, if you look at the base, I don't know if you can see that or not, I'm going to try to zoom in. But if you can see there on the base, the Henry Bonnard Bronze Company, New York, 1883. So now you have the company that created this, the date it was created, and it's right there at the base of that monument. Those little details help to tell the story of the monument, the men that fought in the unit itself, and the story behind what the men did. It's really just a wonderful piece of artwork and historical information. Now, how can you beat a morning walk on a battlefield when you get to look at items like that, you know? And then when you're done looking at the monuments out here, you can turn around and go to the visitor center and the museum that they have, which is fantastic. That has artifacts from not just the Battle of Gettysburg, but many different battles throughout the American Civil War. And it goes in transition. It starts from the very beginning, before secession happens, that talks about slavery. It talks about the reasons and the political reasons behind everything, and then transitions into the first part of the conflict, leads up to Gettysburg, which has day 1, day 2, day 3 in there, and then at the very end, it closes with the closing portion of the war, the written letters from Abraham Lincoln, so his actual autographs on display in there. It's just fantastic, the amount of stuff that they have in there. And then you can't beat the cyclorama and the video that they play before the cyclorama. It's a beautiful thing. You got to get out here and see this stuff if you haven't seen it before. Now, one of the most picturesque monuments out here on the battlefield is this monument to the Irish Brigade. 63rd, 69th, and 88th Irish Brigade, New York Infantry. It's pretty. I'll give it that. It's an amazing monument. But that's not what we're going to take a look at here. I'm not here to explore the monuments that are always looked at. I'm here to show you some things that I've seen that caught my eye when traveling around the battlefield. And they are fairly easily accessible. You can get to most of the locations by driving and then walking off the beaten path just a tiny bit. Not a large walk. I'm walking down from this Irish Brigade monument right now into a cleared field called the wheat field. You can see the angle of the wheat field from where I'm at right now, which really gives you an idea of what these men were facing when they were protecting the wheat field from the Confederates coming from that direction. But right now, I'm at a monument called the 57th New York Infantry. That is right here. We're going to take a closer look at this one. Now, to kind of give you a fresh perspective on this monument here, the 57th New York Infantry details the information on the front placard there. And if you look real close here, that is a cartridge box with your, well, that was, looks like it's been bent. That's weird. Look at that detail. It's amazing. They often ornate their monuments with items that they would have carried in battle. And of course you see portions of the weapon and the cartridge box itself. And then again on the side here, they decided to list some of the locations that they fought. Gettysburg, Mine Run, Auburn Hill, Bristow, Wilderness, Todd's Tavern, Cold Harbor, Petersburg, Deep Bottom, and Reams Station. So that's some some pretty unique information here on this monument. Then I'll zoom in so you can see the marker, Frederick Field, Quincy, Mass. This is where this monument was made. That's pretty neat. Engaged the enemy here July 2nd, 1863. July 3rd on Cemetery Ridge, resisting Pickett's attack. Total number engaged, 175, killed 4, wounded 28, missing 2. And then on the opposite side, there are more. There's more information on where they fought. Let's see if I can get out of the sun so you can see that. So here we are. It shows Yorktown, White Oak, Fair Oaks, Gaines Mill, Malvern Hill, the Peach Orchard, Antietam, Savage Station, Fredericksburg, Chancellorsville. Now notice they have Peach Orchard on here as a location of fighting. This is really a beautiful piece of work. Now the savage fighting that took place out here in this field, the wheat field, was nothing like many people had ever seen. The guys fighting out here had to face very heavy odds against them, really. That field, that small field behind me there, would become the most contentious spot on this battlefield, really in my opinion, in July 2nd. Because Little Round Top was a heavy, hard fight too, so was Culp's Hill. But on this field, it changed hands, I believe they said 6 times, with Confederates pushing across this field, driving the Union soldiers out, and Union soldiers coming right back and pushing them back through the woods over there at Rose Farm. Many officers died right there on that field. Leaders from their units died on that field. What a spectacle this must have been. Men described this place as a place where the wheat had been matted down from all the walking and the tramping on this field, along with the blood stains on that wheat and walking across the field without ever touching the ground. It's a pretty amazing thing. You can come out to an open field like this and reflect, but these monuments tell the story. They give you more information about the units that were out here. And the whole landscape, as you can tell, is dotted across the field with monuments. It's just amazing. I'm going up to one of the most really tragic looking monument out here on the field, to me, in my personal opinion. And when I mean tragic, I don't mean tragic because it's a terrible looking monument. I mean tragic because of the scene that it depicts. It depicts a dead comrade. It depicts a dead soldier. Now remember, these monuments, a lot of them were placed out here in the memory of their fellow soldiers, by soldiers that fought out here at this field. The scene that's on this monument is probably one of the saddest scenes that I've seen on any monument across the Civil War battlefield anywhere. The soldiers laying there peacefully, but in death. This is something that these soldiers have seen played out time and time again. Something somewhere struck them so deep that they had to share this scene. The 116th Pennsylvania. I'm going to show you that monument in detail. So what I like the most about this monument is how simple it is. As you go around the base of this monument where the soldier lies, you can see, simply put, 116th Pennsylvania Infantry. The monument itself details the unit, the coat of arms for that unit, what corps they were in, and then it says July 2nd, 1863, in action, 142 officers and men, killed and wounded, 37. That's it. That is all this monument says. Until you get to the top of this monument, you see a stone wall, a leg sticking out from the other side of that stone wall. Now, if you're looking on this side, that's all the indication you need to know that somebody has had a really, really bad battle. There's someone dead on the other side of that stone wall. And then it depicts the fencing that's out here in Gettysburg that would have been used to keep the animals in. And as you come to the other side of that stone wall, a tragic scene. The rifle, the canteen. The soldier lays there. When you look at his hand, he's still gripping his rifle as if he's in the last throes of life trying to protect himself. Further details on the body. And then the tragic look upon the man's face. To me, what's most noteworthy is the wear upon the cap and the head of the soldier. Many people come to this monument out here on this battlefield. I myself have done it too, and they can't help but place their hand upon that cap or touch that soldier's head, because they know that this image is something that someone had burned into their mind and wanted to depict here at this battlefield. And it represents more than just a stone. It represents the many soldiers that died on fields just like this one right here. It really is a tragic thing. Now, you've probably heard of the Trousseau Farm and Gettysburg lore, but right here in front of the Trousseau Farm is this tiny little monument to the 150th New York Infantry. On that monument, it gives you enough information to let you know about the struggle that happened here. Bigelow's battery was positioned out in those fields over there in the beginning of that fight for the peach orchard. And it ends up having to be drawn back. Well, according to the monument here, the 150th New York of Lockwood's Brigade, 1st Division, 12th Corps, charged to this point on July 2nd, 1863, about 8 p.m. and drew off 3 abandoned guns at Bigelow's battery. Now think about that. When you watch the movie Gettysburg and read the book, do you see anything in there depicting fighting at night or close to nighttime? A lot of what happened here in Gettysburg on that second day happened in the afternoon and moving into the evening hours. And then some of the fight that happened over in Culp's Hill happened when it was dark out. And the men described the fight over there as being thunderous, loud, and the sky lighting up like a thunderstorm had been clapping all afternoon. So the men here pushed forward, grabbed those guns at 8 p.m. That's pretty late. Those little details on those monuments, like that one back there, it brings another perspective to the field as you're transitioning across and learning about the fight and the battle. So when you get out here at the Trousseau Farm, you know, take a look at those little monuments that are around it, not just the larger ones, and stop and read. Here in a second, I'm going to cross over Plum Run, and we're going to do a quick little snap of that so you can see Plum Run from this location. There's no parking here at Plum Run. I had to park up the road to get down to this location. Out of the many monuments out here, one of the more oddly shaped monuments on the field is the one I'm standing behind right now. And it's this ginormous monument right here. And I'm going to take you on the inside so you can see this thing in slow motion, kind of the writing and the things that are inside of this monument. Now, this is one of the more picturesque monuments, and when you stand inside, you can hear your voice echo as you're talking. It says the state of New York in recognition of the services rendered by those Corps, Division, and Brigade commanders at Gettysburg, not elsewhere honored on this field. This is to honor them all. It is really amazing and something to see. Now, it's not that this doesn't get enough attention, because this is pictured in many different postcards, magazines. I mean, if you go into any antique store and you see something from Gettysburg, tourist style stuff, you're going to see a picture of this, because it's one of the attractions here at the battlefield itself. But from this point, you're going to get a good vantage point of the entirety of the battlefield from Cemetery Ridge, looking off in the direction of where Pickett's charge came from. You're going to see the peach orchard just directly out in front. And I'm going to flip this camera around so that you can see it for yourself here in just a second. So like I said, this is the vantage point from the gun directly in front of that monument that we just took a look at. And I'll try to zoom in a little at a time. So you can see the Pennsylvania monument just over here. That's the state monument. And then from this point, you get to see the farmhouses where the soldiers would have crossed from. So the houses are off in that direction over there, along with the barn. When you go right across from there, you can see the woodlot that's way off in the distance. That is actually the woodlot that the Confederate soldiers were at when they were crossing the field. The other farm that's out there, and the Sherfy farm, the barn, the peach orchard, the Trossel farm, and the barn with the cannonball hole inside of it. And because of the woods, you can't really see where the wheat field and all of that stuff is. But circling back in this direction, you're going to be able to see one of the Weichert farms and the Round Tops. He has a keen eye and is as bold as a lion. Who else would I be talking about other than Brigadier General John Gibbon? And out here at Gettysburg, there is a very nice ornate statue in honor of Brigadier General Gibbon. And on that monument, there is a, what looks like a brass, I want to say brass tablet that depicts all the stuff that this man did. I mean, I'm sure it's not all of it, but it's, you know, the major highlights of his career during the American Civil War. And you can literally stand in the shadow of John Gibbon here on Cemetery Ridge where Pickett's charge took place and imagine the fight that would have happened out in front of us. And you can read that tablet and understand a little bit more about John Gibbon and what he did. I'm going to flip this around in a minute and I'll read that for you. So this monument reads, John Gibbon, Brigadier General, July 2nd, 3rd, 1863. At Gettysburg, commanded 2nd Division, 2nd Corps, on July 3rd, 1863, serving with conspicuous gallantry and distinction in the repulse of Longstreet's assault until he was wounded and carried from the battlefield. At the beginning of the Civil War, John Gibbon was a captain in the 4th Artillery serving in Utah Territory. Assigned as Chief of Artillery in McDowell's division, he participated in the advance of Fredericksburg during the Peninsula Campaign. He was promoted to Brigadier General May 2, 1862, thereafter taking command of the Iron Brigade, which participated in the battles of 2nd Bull Run, South Mountain, and Antietam. In November 1862, he became commander of the 2nd Division, 1st Corps. He was wounded in the wrist during the Battle of Fredericksburg in April 1863. He took command of the 2nd Division, 2nd Corps. He was wounded in the left arm and shoulder at the Battle of Gettysburg, in charge of draft depots in Cleveland and Philadelphia until March 1864. He returned to the 2nd Division, 2nd Corps, participating in the battles of the Wilderness, Spotsylvania, Cold Harbor, and the investment of Petersburg. Gibbon was promoted to Major General effective June 7, 1864. Now, just in the shadows of John Gibbon is a much smaller monument that was erected here on Cemetery Ridge. I'm walking over there right now to read the tablet that's on it and to show you this very small monument here, right across from Battery B, 1st New York Light Artillery. So this monument is to the Bucktails Brigade, and it says 150th Regiment right there on the front. The very facing of this monument tells you that it was erected by survivors in 1888. And you can look up more information on this, or you can go over to the Adams County Historic Society YouTube channel with Tim Smith, and he does a really good job at explaining monuments out here on these battlefields, the history of them, how they were dedicated, and things like that. And this particular monument, as you go around, you're looking at information about July 1st, information about July 2nd, and then coming around to the end here, July 3rd held this position where we're at right now, under heavy fire until close of battle, recruited in Philadelphia, Crawford, McKean, and Union counties, mustered in September 4th, 1862, mustered out June 23rd, 1865. So, some pretty neat information on this monument here. I don't see a maker's mark or anything like that. but this is all the maker's mark I need. When it says erected here by survivors in 1888. Now, there are photographs of this monument in the background of bigger monuments, which is why I like to come out here and read the smaller ones. But also, there is newspaper articles from Harper's Weekly from years after the battle that show dirt roads out here that monuments are placed beside. And I like to imagine that the old men came out here in the 1800s to this monument and probably sat around it talking about that terrible day that they had to stand their ground here at this field. And no doubt, spinning tall tales like soldiers always do and having a good time. So I'm out here in front of the ridge where the Confederates were trying to attack that day on the infamous Pickett's Charge. And I'm on the corner where Vermont actually hit Pickett's flank and attacked down the line. And I'm walking out to a location right now that I'm not sure many people go out to in their videos or try to capture in a video. But I'm going to go out there so you can see what there is down this small little trail on this battlefield and see the vantage point that you're going to get if you take yourself off that beaten path. Now, mind you, I am not walking in any location that is not authorized. I'm walking in clear paths, places that anyone's authorized to walk. So I'm not parking or breaking park rules. And I encourage you to stay on the trails too and do not break those rules. Even though these are just fields, they are fields that are hallowed ground. This is a very important place and you should respect those rules. So even though we are not giving the story of the Battle of Gettysburg, I thought it'd be prudent to give I guess a little battlefield orientation from where I'm at. This is the location that I walked out to. Here, there is a marker. I'll flip it around. It's the one that you probably already saw in the video if I put it in there first. Battery B, 1st RL Light Artillery. Really nothing else on here that I can see. But this is their location up on this hill, which makes sense. It's overlooking the field. It has elevation, which is great for artillery. Now, off in this direction, you'll see the farm that's on the ridge here, the famous clubbed soldier, the famous copse of trees, which was the center point or the focal point of Pickett's Charge itself. Over here is the Pennsylvania State Monument. Then you can see the two round tops, little and big round top, off in the distance. And then you go back in this direction, Sherfy Peach Orchard over there. This would be the line of Confederate battery here because they took over that road in that direction. And then it shifts off further back. Out there is Robert E. Lee's statue that's out on this field, which is gigantic, and you can see it from pretty much anywhere across this ridge. And then North Carolina is coming from off in this direction over here. Robert E. Lee is headquartered out in that direction. And if you're a fan of Pickett's Buffet, which is no longer in existence, it's right over there in front of Pickett's Charge. So, this part of the field, I don't see a whole lot of people coming out here to visit this, but take a look at the perspective that we have. when you're standing here, you get a fresh perspective of the grade of the ground. It's uphill, heading towards the copse of trees. You can see that right there too, going back towards those monuments. There's a depression in the ground here as you go up. This is going to hide some of those soldiers from the Union soldiers for a split second, if they make it this far. But if they don't make it this far, this ridge that I'm on is also going to hide them for a split second. And then across that road there is another ridge line where the soldiers are going to pop up all of a sudden from behind as they're coming across that road, heading towards here. And then ultimately that clash, like you would see in the movie Gettysburg, where it's hand-to-hand combat, is taking place out in areas like this right here. Matter of fact, there's a monument to North Carolina over there where they claim to be the unit that got the furthest into the enemy territory here at Pickett's Charge. So I hope that helps out a lot when you come out here to Gettysburg and look at this. This little monument here, if it's not out here on this rock outcropping, there's likely not going to be a trail out here for you to walk up to and see this location. So tiny little monuments like this that mark the spot of battle also help people in the future have access to those locations to get a better perspective of the battlefield. Now, isn't that neat right there behind me? And as I'm walking forward here, I want you to kind of, pay attention to the ground behind me as well as we keep going. And you can see how I'm dipping down a little bit as I'm going back in the direction where I came from. And here in a minute, I'm going to pop back up on the high ground where Vermont was. And I can only describe these fields as peaceful and serene, beautiful. And you can also smell the sweet smells of grass and trees, and the decomposing leaves out in the woods out there are kind of all flooding in, and the various different wildflowers out here. It's moist on the ground. There's a lot of mud out here, but it's also very beautiful, and the temperature is just perfect. I don't think it's quite reached 80 degrees yet, and the humidity level is pretty low. This is one of the more pleasant walks I've had out here at Gettysburg in a long time. So I'm not sure that I've ever been out here in May. If you ever have the chance to go to a film festival or anything, and you want to come up here and visit Gettysburg, I would say May is probably a good time frame for the visit. It's very pleasant. Now we're going to push on from here at Cemetery Ridge. We're going to make our way over to the hill itself, Cemetery Hill and Culp's Hill, and out to the cemetery where there's more than just Civil War soldiers buried out there. There are soldiers from all kinds of wars buried out there. So we'll keep going and keep you informed here in this video. Well, as you guys know, I'm a big fan of Early Bird Gets the Worm. Down here at the base of the monument, you get a real sense of its size and its power. It's pretty massive. You walk around and you can see the different units on these bronze tablets with the names of the members from those units. You can see a goddess of war on top that is actually melted from bronze cannon, or used bronze cannons that were melted down to create it. The statue is pretty massive. It's the largest one. This monument's the largest monument on the field. And if you don't want to check out the sunrise from the top of that monument, you don't want to climb all the way to the top, you don't have to. At certain points of the year, you can actually stand right out front here on Cemetery Ridge, and sorry, somebody just fell on a bicycle, making sure that they're okay. I think I need to go check that out. Looks like all is good with the bike accident. This monument out here, it is magnificent. And there at the top, like I said, that statue at the very top of it, that is that goddess that is made from melted bronze cannon. But at certain points of the year, you can actually check out the sunrise down here in the road or across the street, coming up right through the monument itself. It's a pretty amazing thing to take a photograph of. And there's lots of photos out there. I have tons myself on the internet showing the sunrise between this monument. And even at certain angles, you can still catch it throughout the year. Obviously, there are times of the year when it doesn't line up perfectly, but it's a beautiful sunrise here in Gettysburg to see. You have to be the early bird to catch that, though. You're not going to show up out here on this field at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning and expect to catch a sunrise. At Gettysburg, just like anywhere else, the sunrise is early. But it's the most peaceful place at this time of the morning to catch a sunrise. And it's the most peaceful time of the morning, really, because the tourists are not yet out on the battlefield. And you almost have this thing to yourself, you and the people that are exercising. So. of the most curious observations that I've made about this monument since being here. Sometimes you have to look at things a little more closely. On this monument right here, at the very front, it says, "The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, in honor of her sons, who on this field fought for the preservation of Union." Now, we all understand the story from a futuristic standpoint about why soldiers fought for whatever they fought for. And we are taught that the Union Army fought for not only the preservation of the Union, but they fought to free the slaves, the enslaved people in this country. Nowhere on this monument does it speak to that. Nowhere. This monument was dedicated in 1910. It's been out here for a very long time, and there were Union soldiers out here helping to dedicate this monument. That was not part of that narrative. Not part of the narrative at the time. It was not part of the story that they were telling on these monuments. Not to mention, during these reunions, there were segregated portions of camps too. There was also a segregated cemetery in town where Union soldiers were buried that were African American. They were not allowed to be buried in the National Cemetery with white soldiers. And this is in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, the town of the new birth of freedom. So I find that today as a curious observation of a monument when we speak about monuments. No doubt this is a great monument, and I take no issues with it. But we talk about monuments and things that should stay up and things that should come down and things that should be brought into context. Perhaps this monument should have some context about what exactly these soldiers fought for, if that is the case, what they all fought for. Making my way down the Pennsylvania monument. This is about the only dry spot on the battlefield today, but it's a good spot to be. If you've never been here before, this place is massive. There's plenty of places to stop and take in the views of the battlefield itself. It's really neat. It's a fitting tribute to the Pennsylvania soldiers that fought out here at Gettysburg and other battlefields. Well, it's windy, it is gnarly out here, it is about to come down, I think. There's lightning in the background, and it's getting dark real fast. But I couldn't help myself. I had to come out here tonight after seeing that veteran. I had to come out here and see the old Civil War veteran on his stool, sitting out here looking across the field. Because this is exactly what it reminded me of seeing Jack tonight at that event with Ken Burns at the theater inside that schoolhouse. It's amazing. And here we are, out here in Gettysburg, staring across these open fields. Well, there's many places out here in Gettysburg that you can come and visit and get a pretty decent story and learn about the history of Gettysburg, learn about the people in the town. I highly recommend you go over to the Adams County Historical Society and talk to the folks over there. If you get an opportunity, speak to Tim Smith. He's one of the best historians I've ever seen. Certainly one of the brightest men I know. And this place is something special. The story of the civilians here in this town is worth noting. A lot of people focus on the soldiers that fought out here, but I think that the townspeople, their stories are just as important. I hope you've enjoyed our little tour here at the Whistler House, and we're going to push on down the road, see another one of these spots, see what else we can bring you. Till next time, this is History with Waffles.